Hi Ben, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well also, thank you. I'm so honored to have you on here. I feel like I'm in front of a celebrity.
I appreciate you coming on and letting me be a part of this because it's not all the time that I get to be a part of other people's podcasts.
That's true. You're normally the one doing the hosting,
Yeah, it's nice to have the roles flipped every now and then.
right? I'm sure you do this all the time, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know that you are a networking and a positive talk coach.
Yeah. So when it comes to my coaching, like it's been a journey. It'll be 7 years this September. So, been on quite the journey as a coach. I've navigated many waters and worked in several different niches. Right now, I am kind of focusing in the networking realm. And then I also have my positive talk series that I do on Instagram where I bring people from multiple different backgrounds to come and have conversations that I hope will inspire people to get out there and live their most authentic lives. I think my journey has always been like, I don't want people to idolize who I am as a person. I want them to be inspired by what I do and go out there and really do what they're meant to do because I think we all have a purpose. And I think if you're not navigating in your lane, you can feel like you're not as good as you really are. And as soon as you step into your lane and are practicing your authentic journey, that's when you really start to like shine. And I want to help people get to that.
I love that to help people walk in their own authenticity and find their path.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. What makes being a networking coach unique, and why is it important for life coaches to have a network, do you think?
Yeah. So when it came to like my journey and growing a business and all the different opportunities that I've gotten to take part in, I really boiled it down to it was about the people I knew. And I think a lot of times we go through life thinking that this organic, which I call it, is the people who you just naturally come in contact with, whether it's family, people you met through school or through your career. And I started to branch out of my organic network and started to create intentional relationships with people that I knew were in the lanes that I wanted to explore more. And so on my journey, when I started building up my network full of people who were doing things that I wanted to do or were working in the realm that I knew nothing about and needed help with, it really strengthened my ability to kind of move quickly towards what I was trying to achieve because now I wasn't having to learn a whole new skill just to take a step forward. I was able to connect with someone and they were able to like pull me so much further ahead than I would have been able to do myself. And it really helps me to be able to put the energy that I have as a coach into my coaching and less into all the other things that have to happen for me to be able to do what I love to do, which is coaching.
I love that. That's so cool. Like being around that network of people and provided you an opportunity to learn faster than you would have if you were exploring on your own. So now you're creating that same opportunity for other coaches. Is it just life coaches, or is it also, I think you mentioned before something about the last time we spoke, something about also working with mental health and wellness professionals, anyone in that space?
Yeah, with networking, I really try to connect myself to people who are trying to move towards a big goal. I think a lot of times we shame ourselves into trying to do everything by ourselves. So when I see someone who is struggling to get to like an inspired goal or dream, and I see that they're really just trying to do it all by themselves, I try to dive in and utilize the networking that I do and kind of teach people like, hey, you don't have to do it alone. Your dream, it needs to happen. It was put in your heart for a reason. A lot of times it's dreams like that that burn out too quick because people throw themselves into exhaustion trying to do everything by themselves. So I think coaches are near and dear to my heart because I'm a coach myself and I know the differences that coaches can make in the world. But I also think there's a lot of people out there starting businesses or have a really big goal, and I want to be able to help those people as well.
I love that. It's facilitating other people on that journey and taking the experience and what you've learned and helping other people to get there faster, so to speak.
Yeah. And it really can only happen if you allow some of those like self-limiting beliefs of shame or disappointment or you're not good enough. You really have to kind of let those things down and as well as pride. You can't walk forward with that heavy weight of pride on your shoulders. So networking requires a lot of that stuff to kind of dissolve as well because asking for help isn't always easy, especially if your journey has taught you some of those negative self-limiting beliefs that kind of make you feel like it's a journey that you have to take on your own. But that's also some of the things that I see come up in the sessions I've worked with people. And it's just like, got to sit those things down before we can move forward with the networking.
You're so right. It's true. Asking for help is a humbling experience, right?
Yeah. And I think my journey, because I kind of stepped into a life where I was able to provide for myself in a lot of ways. And life kind of hit me in the face and kind of knocked me down for a little bit, where I was no longer able to provide for myself the way that I used to be able to. And that's when I kind of learned the lesson of it's okay to ask for help. And it doesn't always come with like these negative repercussions because I always thought there was like a huge price to pay when you have someone reach out and help you. And when I started realizing that there are good people in this world, there are people who you have skills that they don't have, and it's almost an equal exchange. But there are also times where you just have to be able to accept help to get towards the goal. And if your goal is important enough to you, you learn that lesson eventually.
That's true to be able to ask for help and that it's okay. I think that's huge too. Like, I feel like so many times people ask for help and it's exactly the way you described. They feel like, okay, now how much debt do I owe? And then you always take what might be an even exchange and then multiply it by 10 because you feel guilty for having to ask for that help to begin with.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like you have to broadcast that you need help because maybe the person that you want to lean on and ask for help isn't able to help you. Because I've helped a lot of people in my life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those people will be able to return the favor in the way that I need them to. And being able to kind of say out loud, I need help instead of trying to call people and do it behind closed doors. Sometimes it's just like, here's where I'm stuck. And sometimes it's very surprising who shows up and wants to help you in your time of need.
That's so true. But going back to what you had mentioned before around asking for help in relationship to networking, would you say that's one of the largest hurdles people have in growing their business is that inability or hesitation around asking for help? And then what would you say are some of the other main hindrances that come to starting your own business as a life coach?
I definitely think that that's like the biggest mind hurdle that you have to jump over is being able to set down that pride and all the limiting mindsets that kind of lock you in place. I think the other thing that a lot of people get stuck in is not even knowing what's next or what they have to do next to succeed. And that also requires you to be vulnerable in stating, this is where I'm currently at, which is not always easy for business owners to do. I've also found it very hard for coaches to do because we feel like as a coach, we are trying to promote ourselves as the person with the answers or the person that can help you. And publicly admitting I'm stuck here is sometimes hard for coaches to admit or business owners, depending on what area they're a business owner in. So also being in a position where it's just okay to say, I have no clue where to go next. I I've been in that position multiple times where it's just like, okay, I've read this book, I've done everything that it says I'm supposed to do, and I'm still not there. Like, what am I supposed to do? And sometimes there's all those people out there with like these big price tags on them, and they claim that they can help, but you need to be very honest with yourself and be like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm stuck. And sometimes we don't realize that we're avoiding something that if we stopped avoiding it and we walked through it and did that small thing, it would unlock so many different doors for us to kind of continue forward. But that's also one of those things that you have to be really open and honest with yourself on that journey and be vulnerable.
That's huge. That's such a great point too, that like beyond asking for help and a willingness to ask for help, but to take a minute and pause and say, okay, this is where I'm stuck, and being able to have that conversation with someone. Because if you can't admit like that there's a problem somewhere, like the fact that maybe I am not comfortable telling people about my business,
Mhm.
like then someone knows how to help you.
Yeah. You like as soon as you like admit that that's something you're uncomfortable with, then you can start to ask your questions around like why is that? And then you can start to develop something to kind of heal that wound so that you can move forward and be able to promote yourself with your business. Because I think that there are so many people who try to find a workaround, say a lot of people who are nervous about promoting their business and speaking about it, will try the route of posting things on social media instead of having conversations about it. And it's something that people can see through pretty quickly if you're just posting about it and not having conversations about it. And it will seem like you're moving forward, and then you're going to arrive at the same destination of being stuck until you deal with that problem.
Hmm. How would you recommend that people go about getting past that feeling of stuckness?
I
With
think having mentors and being around someone who's not stuck in that same space. I've definitely worked with other coaches where when I've come upon the things that have put me in that stuck mode, really helped me kind of navigate around and realize, oh, it's not as hard as I made it seem in my head. And I think when you have mentors within your realm who can kind of show you what the other side looks like, it's
Mhm.
kind of that pull to kind of get you to go through whatever fear you have to step through to get to your goal.
That's so true too, because sometimes it does help to have someone else tell you, or have to seen some having seen someone else come out on the other side to say, "Oh, this is possible," and then you're working with a mentor that's telling you, "No, you can get out of this forest that you're stuck in." When in reality, you could have been there for years if you weren't willing to ask for help. Um,
Yeah, and it's got to be someone that you believe in. Because I've worked with many people who were succeeding in my realm, but something about me didn't believe in them enough to where my limiting beliefs kept me stuck. But when I was finally around someone who said it, they're saying the same thing that other people are saying, but I believed them. And that's one thing that I realized in life as well is like you can hear tons of people saying it, but if you don't in your mind give them enough credit to believe them, then you can stay stuck and have the same people saying the same thing over and over and over. And then just someone you admire and someone that you look up to says it, and it like unlocks that door, and it's like a completely different experience. So sometimes that happens, like you're like, wow, people have been telling me this for years and I never believed it. Then this person who I admired said it, and it just opened doors.
yeah, I like that, like having the right relationship with the mentor who's a good fit, because that belief can lead to action. So if you don't believe what someone's telling you, what reason or motivation do you have to move?
Yeah. And I think it's like the same thing with like self-doubt and all of those things. People I've had so many people say like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And if you don't believe that, like if you don't love yourself, if someone hasn't come into your life to make you believe that you are lovable, uh, you can sit in the same place and never really feel what that means to be loved by so many. But when you kind of let that wall down, when someone finally broke through and you start to feel that love from everyone, it feels very different once you are able to accept the words that are being said to you because there have been times where I've worked with clients and I was like, I don't feel like you believe me. I don't
Yeah.
think my words are sinking in because I'm not sensing a change in your energy. I'm feeling like you're still stuck. So, do you want to
Mm.
continue forward with me as a coach? Because if you don't believe that change is possible yet, then no matter what I say, I'm just going to be a broken record on this side until you start to absorb what I'm saying and let it sink in.
Mm. That's so true too. Yeah, sometimes we can put up walls in our relationships and we can't hear anyone when they say, I love you or you're capable because there's that inner work that has to be done for you to be vulnerable enough to accept the help that's going to take you to the next level.
Yep.
That's so cool. Man, and you said you've been doing this for 7 years, right?
Yep. Going into my seventh year. So it's been a journey. And I think that the biggest thing that I've learned is me myself being vulnerable is the way that I'm able to connect with people. There have been so many instances where I've been just very open and vulnerable about places I'm stuck in, things that I've had to overcome. And that's kind of the journey that connected me with the people that I work with. Whereas when I started taking on the role of playing expert, being the smartest person in the room, pretending I had all the answers, that's when I started to see disconnect and a decline in people being interested in wanting to work with me as a coach. So it's been a journey for me, and I think I've learned a lot of things, and I'm expecting life to hand me some more lessons to continue to learn and grow because it always will. But it's definitely a journey where I've had to learn to just be more vulnerable and don't allow being a professional lead you back into self-limiting beliefs and things that hold you back from moving towards your goals.
Mhm. I love that. I have too. I've learned so much just from being able to sit in with you on some of your group sessions and then listening to your podcasts. And it's just true. Like that vulnerability is relatable, right? Nobody's perfect. So if we sit there and we pretend that we are, of course the person on the other end of the conversation is going to feel like they can't get to where you are because they're not seeing any flaws. There's no connection there.
Yeah. And because we're all flawed, when we see someone who's trying to present perfectly, we just, nothing connects with that because none of us sit in our mind and actually feel perfect. So seeing anyone project that message doesn't connect with anyone. So as soon as you kind of just open up and admit, like, I do struggle, there are things that I'm still working on today, people can relate to that because we're all on that journey. So you want to make sure that you're within that space. I think that there are people out there who will try to discredit your work because you have flaws, but more likely those aren't the people you want to be connected to anyway. Because if they're in that headspace, they're probably in so much pain that they're probably creating a lot of damage and trauma around them through actions. So it's almost like the universe is like repelling those types of people from you if you allow yourself to heal and know that what's good for you will exist, what bad will vanish and not be a part of your life.
Hmm. That's a healthy way of looking at it, right? That we're not going to be the right fit for everyone, and that can be a very good thing. Some
Yeah.
people aren't ready to work with us. Sometimes we're not ready to work with someone else. And then back to what you were mentioning earlier around sometimes we resonate differently with different people.
Yeah. It's so funny because I worked with a coach who was like a relationship coach. And one of the things that she spoke about was like when it comes to relationships, you want to be in a thriving state when you attract your partner. And I was just like, I totally agree. Looking back on my past and thinking about the different stages of life I was in and the people I attracted, when I healed myself, when I was on a journey of healing, I started attracting better people that raised my vibration, that were moving towards goals, and I was able to connect on that level versus when I was still very much chasing anything that I could like lay my hands on and just be like, mine, mine. And then like I held on to it so tight because I thought if I didn't, that it wouldn't exist in my life. But it was funny that she was teaching that as a coach, but then when she was looking at the method she was taking when it came to getting clients, she was very much holding on to anything that she could get her hands on and was fearful that if she didn't, that she wouldn't have clients. And I was like, maybe you can apply what you're teaching your clients to what it is that you've got that's holding you back from believing that you could attract all the right clients into your life if you believed in yourself. So I was like, let's dive into that. So it's funny because as life coaches, we focus so hard on the thing we're trying to help other people when more likely we learned that lesson at one point, but we need to now apply it to the next stage in our life, which before it was chasing after a partner, now it's chasing after clients. You want to make sure that you learn that lesson well enough to where it applies to the next stage in your life. And we all go through that journey. I've definitely learned a lesson multiple times in different phases in my life.
From chasing, I know what you mean. I've done that before too. I've done that in relationships and I've done that with my coaching before. It's like the opposite magnet when you're chasing and then it's pushing the thing further away. But then when you sit back, um, and you work your process without attaching like this desperate energy to it, it's everything starts to fall into place. But it's something that's learned. I agree.
Yeah. And I think we don't realize the energy that we give off when we're in that like desperate state. Like when you're in like that thriving mindset of like life will provide me for like what I need, it's a very different vibration and it's in every action you take, the words you speak, the movements you make, the like people you connect with. I realized that when I was in a lack mindset, that when I saw other people successfully getting things to where it almost seemed like it was just falling into their lap, I
Mm.
repelled those people. Like I was disgusted with them in a way that I was just like, life is so easy for them. It's not, life isn't like that for me. And then when I realized that that was the vibration I was sending out, when I switched that up and things started falling into my lap, I realized that I repelled people who felt like I used to feel. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's crazy how the universe kind of pushed those people out. Whereas before, I was the person being pushed out of someone's life because I wasn't in a frequency of accepting what the universe was going to give me and believing that it could be easier than what I was making it out to be.
Mm. So you moved from a lack mindset to an abundant mindset. Once the light bulb switched on and you're like, oh, this is what's happening. Something needs to change.
Hmm. It's definitely an interesting switch, and it in the moment it doesn't seem that easy because when you're not getting what you want and when you're being slapped with like failures and everything else and it's just piling up, when someone comes to you and they're like, all you have to do is change your mindset, that doesn't feel good because that's not how easy it feels in that moment. because you're sitting there looking at all these things that are not lining up. Um, but over the years, since I've become more aware of it, when I start to feel like things are like repelling from me instead of being attracted, I start to just kind of dig deep and like, okay, why is this happening? Why did it switch back to I'm repelling what I want instead of it coming to me? And a lot of times it was because I was in the wrong mindset and I was attaching negative things to the things that I wanted instead of positive things.
Mm, that's so cool. Um, and especially the fact that you mentioned having grown to the point where you can pick up on that right away, where you're saying, oh, something's shifted back again. How do I shift back into that positive mindset? Do you have any tricks that you use to do that quickly?
I will say like the biggest thing that I realized within myself was like when I started speaking about the people that I wanted to be as if they were a different group of people that did not include me. So
Mm,
a lot of times the best example I think is when we speak about people with money. If you go, oh, rich people, you've already said rich people as if they are these people and you're over here with a different group of people. So I think it's the language that you're using because when I speak, because there were times where like being a part of my positive talk, having brand deals and having an abundance of clients, like I felt like I was at the level where I could speak to someone as big as Taylor Swift. I was just like, oh my gosh, like we are experiencing success and abundance and all. Like I was vibrating on a level where I felt like I was being able to relate to all these very successful people. And then I tripped, I stumbled, things weren't coming as easily. And I started looking at them as if they are now a different group of people that I was not a part of anymore. And even within the language that I was using, I was referring to them as other than
mm,
myself. So I think as soon as you can start switching that language and being aware of how you speak, because it's almost like words are spells, and
yes.
you're sharing words that are like create casting a spell on you that's holding you over here versus speaking as if all of those people you want to be they're operating in the same space as you can be just as abundant as them. It's just switching the mindset, and words are usually the easiest space to find where your mindset is. Recording yourself, I think speaking is the best space. Um, Writing's great, but sometimes I feel like I can convince my hand to write more positively than I'm actually thinking. Whereas when I'm speaking to a video, like talking about what I want and speaking about it and then rewatching it multiple times, I'm like, wow, look how negative I was being with the words right there. And I'm able
Mm,
to kind of see, okay, not using that verbiage anymore and just switching it into a mindset and words that align with it's already mine. It's just not currently sitting in front of me, but it will if I start making that shift. And I think a lot of people, when I work with them as coach and client, that's the first thing I'm doing is sitting there listening to their words. And I'm like, you want to know why you're struggling? Because you don't
yeah.
believe it's possible. And I can hear it in every word that you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, because over time too, you've trained yourself to pick up on those cues. You've learned what that looks like, even if somebody else might not pick it up so quickly or the person doesn't notice, like, wait a minute, I'm saying that I'm poor all the time or I'm struggling in my relationship. Even if you're struggling in your relationship, I feel like that was such a powerful statement that you made that words are spells. Like, we don't like to really honor the power of your words. Um, because they can change the direction and course of your life. It affects your mindset, your beliefs, the relationship that you have with other people and their beliefs.
Yeah. And I think the best way to like show people how powerful words are is just send the same text message to multiple people, but use different words to describe the situation. Use some that are more positive, use some that are more negative, and watch the responses you get in return. And realize that every single word you say is creating that type of impact. And you'll see the responses you get are going to be very different. Granted, their mindset and where they're currently at will also impact their response, but just watch, like, maybe do five very positive words that describe the situation, and then five more negative words that describe the same situation. And you'll see how much of an impact just your words have on how people respond. So that's how differently the world will respond to you. Complete strangers seeing you, how you respond to them, your body language, all of that is a part of the journey. And I was just blown away when I did that with my friends. And I was just like, wow, I encourage the behavior that happens around me just by the words that I choose.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I need that stitched on a pillow somewhere. Somewhere.
That'll be a very big pillow.
It would be maybe like a sign. Um, but wow. Now I'm having trouble shifting to the other. But I know I have this on record. So I'll have to, if I make that happen, I'll have to send it to you and then have a copy here at the house. But
Yeah,
yeah. It's everything. I think I'm gonna take your advice too on the videos, like creating videos for yourself, because I blog daily, and I know a lot of people watching my channel mention that they also do video logs. But then when we're doing that, um, to also be conscious of the words that we're using, to be aware that we're creating every time we speak. So if you don't want something in your life, change the way you talk about it. If you don't like the way you're showing up or your identity, we can start to shift that through our words, our self-talk.
yeah. Don't share saying I don't have something. Share it's not currently within my reach. It's not like changing the words just a little to like make it known that it's still a possibility. It may not be sitting in front of you. I don't currently have the resources versus saying I don't have, because just not currently means it's not sitting here physically right now. But you can change the words just a little to make it to where it's like, okay, it's available somewhere. I just am not currently at that space.
Yes, like you bring something into that realm of possibility and within reach.
Yeah. And then like also you were talking about like sharing daily vlogs. I encourage people to do one that's private and one that's public, because we do perform for people. And I think sometimes it's better to have like special videos that are just for you. I have a folder on my computer full of videos that are just me speaking to myself, because sometimes when I come into spaces, I still put on an act in a way that I'm just like, oh, you need to stop doing that. Like you're trying to still perform and appear a certain way. Whereas when you're being vulnerable, it's like a Facebook post versus like writing in your diary. Um, those are two different things usually. You're probably a little bit more honest in your diary than you are on a Facebook post. So like measuring that and asking yourself like how can you show up more authentic and real and not perform as much, and kind of keep doing both and see how you can shrink that gap between the two.
Between performing and then doing that, um, those items that are going to help with your tasks that are going to help with your inner work. So,
Yeah,
like in my journal, it's for me. But when I'm performing or I have a podcast that we're doing or we're doing a video for other people to see, we're serving, right? It's not the spotlight isn't on you necessarily anymore. It's to help guide someone along their own journey.
Yeah. And learn why you do those things. Because when I started asking myself why I was a different person on my video that was just for me versus for other people, I started to pick it apart and realize that I was trying to be someone I thought they wanted me to be instead of being myself the way that I currently am. And like I said at the beginning, like when I am showing up as my most authentic self, that is what the world needs me to be. But on our journeys, we've been taught that the world wants you to be a certain way. So we become that, not realizing how unauthentic that really is of us to perform in that sense. And ask yourself, like, how can I show up as this person and this person be inspiring to the people that are watching my videos?
I love that. That's so powerful too, like focusing on being your authentic self, no matter who's in a room with you, right? Even if that's like through the screen. Too, I feel like sometimes when we're performing, we're giving people what we think they want to see. But then at the same time, who we are in private might be so toxic that we don't want the world to see that. And like that's another opportunity to hold up that mirror and say, okay, if it's not okay for other people to see me treating myself this way, maybe I shouldn't be treating myself this way.
Yes, I 100% agree there. There have definitely been times I'm like, I would never say what I just said to myself to anyone else in this world because I know how it would hurt someone. Why am I saying it to myself? And it's just like, wow, that's got to be fixed. Because on the journey of having me as my own boss, like I've dealt with more stress than ever before having like a corporate boss that was just a horrible boss because like the things that I say to myself are meaner than any boss could say because HR would fire them instantly.
Yeah,
But
right.
when it comes to like saying and having me as my own boss because I run my own business, I'm like, whew, I need to contact HR because this guy in here, he is being really hateful right now.
Right. He's being a little hostile with his words.
He is burning people in this workplace, and that's not
But
healthy.
but at least like awareness though, that awareness is such a big place to start because by saying it's not okay, like and we learn so much through working with our clients too. Like they'll say, oh, I got so much out of it. And every time, like 9 times out of 10, I'm thinking, me too. Even when someone says, oh, I'm such a this, and I'm thinking, well, why did you say that to yourself? And I say it. Why would you say something like that to yourself? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I called myself that last night. But it's like, it doesn't make it okay. And if it's not okay for someone else to treat themselves that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just think about like that thought that comes across like, I would never say this to someone else. Imagine the people out in the world that are causing trauma in people by the words and actions that they're doing. Imagine how horrible they must be speaking to themselves internally if they think it's okay to put externally those types of words or actions to the people around them. So that's
Yes.
another area where like I've tried to become a lot more forgiving to people around me. Like I don't deserve to be treated that way, so I will respect and create boundaries to protect myself. But I've become a lot more forgiving to people around me because I'm like, wow, if you're treating me this way, like I can only imagine how you're treating yourself. Like I will pray for you, I will send positive energy your way, but it's just like imagine other people in their head if we as coaches can speak so negatively to ourselves sometimes. Like imagine other people. It's just kind of sad that the world is in a space where we don't have open discussions about that more.
Yeah. About the importance of that positive self-talk. It's like that saying that we love other people the way that we love ourselves. when we talk to other people the way that we talk to ourselves. And the fact that so many people are going through life feeling like that's okay, having that awareness even as coaches gives us the opportunity to help someone else take a look in the mirror and love themselves better.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember being taught like treat others as you want to be treated, but I don't feel like we're ever taught like treat yourself how others should be treating you. Because when we don't respect ourselves, we're teaching other people to disrespect us as well. And in so many instances where it's like treat others as how you would like to be treated, it's like we are telling people that we will put them before ourselves. And that becomes a thing where they're like, thank you, I will accept that. I will accept you putting me first. And
Yes.
I'm like, that is so toxic and unhealthy, where it's like, if you set healthy boundaries for yourself and you're like, I will not be treated that way, it teaches people around you that you are someone that has a lot of self-respect and self-love and will not accept anything less than people who are loving to you in the space that you hold. And I think there's so many like little sayings that I look back on and reflect on, and I'm like, I don't like that. That does not leave good space for me. That's like treat everyone else great, but if you treat yourself poorly in dark spaces of the world, like that's okay. I'm like,
Right.
but it's not. That's
It's
not okay at
not.
all.
Taking things with a grain of salt and putting it in perspective.
Yeah.
I love
It's
that.
definitely there are so many philosophies out there where like sometimes I hear them and I'm like, that's very like respect your elders. Like I think it's great to respect your elders, but it's also elders need to respect children as well, because if you're not teaching them what respect looks like through your actions as an elder, then the children are reflecting what they're learning from the world. So it's
Mhm.
like respect everyone. It's not just the elders that have the rights to be respected. Like if a child is uncomfortable, an elder needs to respect that and navigate around it. But we live in a world where it's like, I'm an elder, so you must listen. And I've seen things like Maya Angelou had a thing, I think she was on Oprah, but she said something about you will not speak to me or use my first name. You need to respect me as an elder. And like my skin was just like, ugh. Like that was not the most respectful response to someone who just they were asking her a question. And I was just like, I felt like there was probably a better way that that could have been handled. But we live in a realm where it's like, it's okay to say respect your elders, and we accept that as socially acceptable. But we're also, by saying that, that younger people's comfort levels can be pushed whatever way we want, because the rule is you must always respect your elders. I was just like, I feel like there needs to be mutual respect everywhere. And I think the more parents that I'm seeing in the world, they're starting to realize that. It's like, okay, like if mommy snaps and yells at kid, mommy has to apologize, because you
Yes.
don't yell at kids and just allow them to take that trauma into their adult life. It's like, okay, explain why you snapped, apologize, because the child respectfully did not deserve to be yelled at in that way. Even if they do something bad, they are a child with a child mind navigating the world as a child. Respect them. And the more I see that, I'm just like, man, I wish that was kind of like my journey, because I developed a lot of limiting beliefs because I didn't believe I had the right to feel the things that I was feeling. And then I kind of internalized that and turned it into everything that it is in my adult life that I'm now battling and trying to overcome.
It's, you're right. It's important to for everyone to be able to show respect to other people. And I would agree with you too that the responsibility of the person that's been alive longer, not that doesn't always necessarily mean that they're wiser, but that it's their responsibility to create teachable moments, even when someone doesn't show up in the way they feel that they should. So if I'm talking to my 5-year-old and she's throwing a tantrum, that's not an opportunity for me to throw a tantrum with the 5-year-old.
Yes. Yeah, it's it's definitely interesting. And now that I'm an adult and my friends are starting to have kids, I'm starting to see what they talk about when it comes to like generational trauma being passed down. Like, as much as it pained us as kids to go through the pains that our parents put upon us because of their traumas, I see it within my friends and like my siblings who have kids when it comes to the generational trauma being passed down. And it's not an excuse. We all have to go through the healing process. And it's kind of sad how sometimes we do it without even knowing that we're doing it. Like the trauma is still there, we haven't healed it. But then being around coaches, like seeing coaches as parents and seeing like someone who stepped up on their healing journey, I'm like, wow, you're handling that so much better than the parents that I'm seeing around me. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you've been on a healing journey because even when like children are disrupting coaches in the background, you see their response of like respectfully asking, like, hey, do you think you can turn that down? Or, hey, mommy's doing this right now. Uh, I'll be right there. Or they'll apologize to the person on the screen versus like at my old job, I had someone think she put herself on mute and she didn't. And she turned and said some of the most vulgar things I've ever heard a mother say to a child. And then she puts herself on mute and she's like, I'm like, you're on mute now. You
You
weren't
weren't before.
before. I was just like, wow, that was, I've never heard something like that come out of a person's mouth. And it was just like, interesting. There may be some healing space there for you
Needs
to
to.
work on.
Oh, that's so cool too. That like came back full circle with what you were talking about earlier and being authentic. Like if she was going to speak with her daughter in a way that she, would need to be on mute because no one else could hear it, is that really an appropriate way to speak to her daughter?
Exactly.
Oh, I did so many things. I always learn so much, like when I sit with you and I listen to you. I know you got your certification from the Jay Shetty Life Coaching certification um, not too long ago, and then you've been coaching for 7 years. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned outside of the program and then inside of the program?
I think the beautiful thing about the Jay Shetty certification school was how he put it all in order. Because there's so many things where I'm just like, wow, that all fits together so well versus the journey I was on before, where I was picking up all those pieces so sporadically on my own journey because I didn't know how to ask for the information. So Jay Shetty definitely and his team put it in such a beautiful format for us to absorb the knowledge. I definitely think that coaches going through it should check in with those modules occasionally since we have lifetime access to them. Like as you grow and go further into your journey, I think that the order that he put that in really creates like that sense of just like, oh, the more I use this, the more it all makes sense. So like when he was talking about like the ABC journey that he goes with people, I'm just like, wow. Like, it took me years to like maintain and figure those things out. But then also realizing that it's your own style. It's what resonates with you. And I think even though the Jay Shetty program's beautifully done, I think a lot of people came out on the other side kind of feeling less than, which wasn't something I was hoping a lot of coaches would feel after a program to help them become a coach. And I would say to those people, like, it's probably just because those were very clear, defined boxes of here's what you need to do. Check, check, check. realize that you don't have to fit into Jay Shetty's boxes. There are so many very successful coaches out there changing the world for the better. Like, it's okay to operate. I don't think Mel Robbins would go through Jay Shetty's program and agree with every single thing he said. I don't think Tony Robbins would go through and agree with everything that was put into that order. So take what you can from the program and then realize that you wanted to be a coach for a reason and utilize that knowledge to do good in the world the way that you were meant to do good in the world. Because I've definitely worked with so many clients where I've seen beautiful changes, and some of the things that went through and happened in our sessions do not check Jay Shetty's boxes. But there's this beautiful change to where now I've got someone sitting in front of me who is now self-motivated, self-loving, like they are doing great things and are now doing something in the world where they're adding to it with their authentic touch. And I was like, that can't be wrong. Like that, just because I didn't check every box that Jay said I needed to check to be a successful coach, I'm seeing something that I wanted to be able to create. And I was like, okay, so you can do it multiple different ways. And as long as the person in front of you is grateful for the work that you're helping them do, like, I think you're doing good. And don't let someone else's different style discourage you from continuing to do the work. Because more than likely, you were changing lives for the better before you even signed up for the class. Don't stop doing that just because it's not in alignment with the way someone else says it should be done.
Yeah, I love that. Like, dropping the notion that there could be some kind of cookie cutter path to success. Like someone might be like a chocolate chip cookie or a macadamia nut or a muffin or a donut. And it doesn't mean that you're useless and no one can find value or appreciate you. It's just different, but seeing like each learning experience as an opportunity to learn more about what you can learn more about and apply it to your life and your coaching for what you need because we're all different. So, like, what one person might get out of it, someone else might get something different.
Yeah. And just know that maybe you're not a cookie muffin or whatever, something that's already created, and you're going to
Yeah.
something very new that the world needs right now. There are so many things that are in existence now that if you looked 10 years ago, never existed. So don't be afraid to say, that doesn't work for me. I'm something different, and become the next big name that's out there because the world needs so many people to step up. And I think each person's voice is really important. And comparing ourselves to others will really just prevent us from ever believing our voice was made for a greater purpose than the person that we're comparing ourselves to.
To give ourselves that permission to be unique because it can be amazing.
Yeah. It's so funny because I feel like when you're a child and a teenager, your whole being is just wanting to be accepted. So you will like do whatever you can to be accepted by the crowd. And then as adults, it's like, how do I stand out from the crowd? And it's like, well, go back to your teenage years, ask that kid all the things that they hid, and then bring them back to the light because it's usually those things that make someone unique. And I always tell people, I'm like, well, what do you hide? Like, what do you lie about? Like, when someone asks you about your life, what are things that you feel like you wouldn't want to tell someone? More than likely, that's where you need to be putting your energy because that's probably something that makes you unique because you feel like others wouldn't accept it when that's really the thing you need to be shining the spotlight on because it's your unique features that really connect with people.
Yeah, even if it's something that's challenging, like you putting a spotlight on it can help you get through that situation, and it can help someone else, you know.
Yeah. Like I've been through some traumas as a child, and for the longest time, I felt like I had to hide those things because people wouldn't be able to relate to me on those levels. And when I opened up and shared, I healed because I was no longer holding it, but I also connected with people on a level that I was not ever able to connect with people on before because I was always hiding that secret in me. And when it came to sharing that secret and having people embrace and love me, despite knowing a secret that I kept because I thought it would make me less lovable, I was just like,
Yeah.
wow, this is a magical feeling to not have that weight on me anymore and be able to connect through it instead of using it as a way to like keep space between me and the person that became best friends later.
Yeah. You're being embraced for being yourself. And that's so much better than being embraced for being someone you're not.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about, like, in the vein of being unique and authentic, your Heartbeat program, the coaching voyage that you have on Heartbeat. I have never attended anything like that in my life until I heard about it from you, and I've gotten so much out of that program. What inspired you to create it? Was it around that positive talk and networking or vein?
So when it came to my first community that I launched on Heartbeat, it was very much focused around my positive talks because there were so many people in the comments of my lives trying to have conversations with us, the guests that were on. And when we were having a conversation for a podcast episode, it's hard to engage with every comment that's flying across the screen and have meaningful connections and conversations. So the first community I built was built around the idea of holding a space virtually for people to connect as a whole and not have just two characters speaking to one another on a topic. But the Heartbeat community that I'm running now, which is very much focused around coaches, is I think there are so many spaces where someone has a very, very specific, this is what the space is for. Like, this is for meditation, meditation only, nothing else. This is where we meditate. And I knew that coaches needed a lot more and going through the Jay Shetty program. And I know that he just launched his own community on the Circle platform, which I'm hoping will be a platform that holds a lot more value for coaches. As I feel like the Experienceify platform he was using was not as user friendly and community oriented. But I knew that there needed to just be space for people to communicate and connect with one another on just whatever topics were brought up. I think that my true belief is we all hold immense value within us. I never thought that I'm smarter than anyone else and that everyone needs to look at me and hear what I have to say. So I think in creation of things, I've been in a lot of spaces where one person kind of stands as if they are more important than others. And my true belief is every single person on this earth has the exact amount of value. It's just I may hold more value in teaching people this topic, whereas you will hold more knowledge in a different space. And sometimes we will have the same knowledge and help each other grow, just because that's how we grow is connecting with people who are a little bit better, and then we'll grow and be a little bit better and grow back and forth. But just from the Jay Shetty School itself, being a coach who's been doing it for several years without that community, I saw how beautiful just being in a Zoom chat with 30 other coaches was. And when I didn't see that as an option to continue doing that, I was like, okay, if I need to launch a community to keep this going, I will do it. I will open the doors and hold the space so that we can continue to grow and just be authentic and share. And I've enjoyed it, I think, just as much as others, just because I love seeing people from who they were in February to now when we're almost in June. And I'm just like, this is such a beautiful journey to get to like be a part of and watch because
Right.
we're all growing in so many different ways. And some people are completely different people than what I envisioned when I first connected. And I'm just like, I think you're growing into your authentic self more because you're starting to stand up and shine. Whereas before, I felt like you were too much in comparison in this space. And now you're realizing that we're not here to compare or compete. We're here to support and love one another on this journey. And I really enjoy seeing people kind of exist in space like that. But you have to create it with intention to be that. Otherwise, spaces can destroy people. And I've seen community spaces created where people's feelings were hurt, people weren't celebrated for being themselves, and certain people were, certain people weren't. I never want someone to feel that way within a community I create because I think everyone deserves to be celebrated. Even if it's something I don't understand, I'm sure someone else in the community can. And I think that that's what community should always be about, celebrating everyone and it be a space for growth for everyone involved.
That's beautiful. And you've done really well with that. I love Heartbeat and the coaching voyage, that positive community, because it's like you said, there's so many spaces in the world that can be toxic spaces, but to have a community where the goal and the focus is to grow together and build each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like I constantly have to be in check with myself because there can definitely be those temptations of how do you grow it quicker? How do you do this? How do you get more people to participate? And I'm just like, you have to just keep the space safe. You just have to keep being authentic and keeping to the true values that you wanted this community to have, and it will grow in the pace it needs to grow. Because there were times where I was just like, oh, only three people showed up to that call. And I'm like, yeah, but that was like three people, and we had the most amazing conversation. Like, we were meant to be in that space at that time. Other people were in other spaces where they were meant to be at that time. And I have to keep reminding myself because constantly there are people out there, they're like, well, why isn't it growing as much now? Or what if someone didn't, people showed up and they aren't showing up anymore? And I'm like, I can't control that. That's out of my control. All I can keep doing is providing the space I think it should be and just remain open and hearing people who are like wanting more from it and putting it in there. Because I think there's a lot of things out there, especially people who see value in it and see it as like a money space. And
Mhm.
like, I don't want to grow it based upon whether or not it's going to bring money. I want to keep it as, does it hold value? Is it providing value? Is it a safe space? Is it inclusive? Is it growing people? Just keeping that track because tons of people keep pointing things and I'm like, no, I don't want it to be driven based upon can this like become a huge money thing? And I'm like, no. Like maybe it could be, but it always has to be in the positive heart space. Because if it gets drug off that track, then it destroys everything that it should be, or at least what I would like it to be.
Yeah, it's in alignment with your purpose. Huh.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong there, like in serving others. And Ben, thank you so much for taking the time out today to meet and share with us on the power of networking and positive self-talk, being authentic. Before I let you go, I have to ask, what are some of the other ways that people can find you if they're looking for private coaching or group coaching, your heartbeat space, and then I'm famous for compound questions, so I apologize in advance. But
No.
also, what's up next for you? Like, if I can ask, if you could give us a sneak peek into that. Are you looking at retreats or?
Yeah, I can definitely dive into some of those. For the heartbeat community, if you are a coach, you don't have to be certified. If you are someone you're thinking about being a coach, you can reach out to us across our platforms and we've got links to let people in. I'm keeping it as a private link. I'm not putting it out there for everyone. So if you're interested in being a part of the coaching community, then feel free to reach out. For me, social media is it's Drummond Culture pretty much across every platform. You can also reach me at lifecoachdrummond@gmail.com, which is my email for my coaching stuff. When it comes to what's next, what I'm working on, I'm really creating a passion project around helping other people become very successful in launching their passion projects that they have. And with my networking skills that I have, I coach that into the project. So I really want people to create projects because a lot of the people I'm working right now, we're creating their little babies that they're going to send out into the world. And I absolutely love doing that. My positive talk was a baby at one point, and it was something that I really cared about and I shared it with the world, and it became something even more beautiful than I ever could have thought it would become. And I want other people to have that opportunity. So if it's a business you're wanting to launch, if it's a product you want to launch, if it's a podcast you want to launch, I would love to be there and help you get there. I think that the support that I can provide will definitely get you to that finish line space where you can share it with the world. And when it comes to the big things that are coming up next, I would love to be able to host retreats for people to kind of exist in that realm of creation, being surrounded by other people that are in that mode of creation, I think only inspires you to be more creative and it helps you past all those little walls and mountains you have to climb over to make your baby into reality. So, that's my journey. My positive talks will forever go on. I thought like the first year that I had it, that it was going to be done after election day because I really started that series as a way to keep the positive going in the world. And I was like, okay, once the elections are over, I'll probably stop. But they became such an amazing part of my life that I just didn't want it to end. So I will continue to do that series probably until I'm done on this world. But that will forever continue to grow. If you're looking to contact me about coaching, you can email me. You can connect with me through my website, which is drummondculture.com. Same with all my different social media platforms. My Instagram is where I host my Positive Talk series. So if you want to follow me there, check it out. It's Drummond Culture. But yeah, I hope I answered all the questions there.
You did. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming and sharing with us today. I will link all of Ben's information below. And if you haven't had an opportunity to work with Ben yet, he is just amazing. And that positive energy that he brings to with him into every situation that I've been in with him over the past like half of a year, 6 months, has just been contagious. It's been a blessing. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what you're doing down the road, and I hope you keep us posted on the retreats because we would love to be there.
Most definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love that you are doing stuff like this because I think stuff like this really does help the healing process start. It makes people more aware that coaches exist in the world and that there are people like you and me out there that are very, very much interested in investing our time and commitment into helping other people fast track their healing journey and start to kind of live the life that they were meant to live. So thank you for having me and keep doing what you're doing as well. I will forever support coaches that do the work that you're doing.
Thank you. It's my honor, my pleasure. And thank you guys for joining us and watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, guys. Bye, Ben.
Bye.